One of the absolute best things that I've come across in the last few years is doing sensitivity desensitization with a computer and with lasers. And the history of this goes back into the 1950s when acupuncture started coming to the West. A scientist in Germany named Reinhard Voll discovered that you could actually measure the energy in the meridians electrically. And if the meridian was high, the energy would be high electrically, and if it was low, it would be low electrically, and he created a device that would measure that. He also found that you could manipulate the energy in the meridians by doing different things like using nutrition or changing some aspect of that person's physiology. In the 1990s, it was discovered that you could desensitize somebody to a substance or an allergen by changing the information that was in the acupuncture meridians. And it was discovered by a doctor named Devi Nabutrapad, and she created a technique called the Nabutrapad Allergy Elimination Technique, or NAET. And the premise was that if the patient was sensitive to something, let's say it was a carrot, and you put a sample of carrot in that person's hand, when you stimulated certain acupuncture points, that person would pretty much instantly not be sensitive to that carrot anymore. And it works very well. Well, over the next few years, that technology was combined with computerized testing as well as treatment with lasers. And so I used to do this manually, and I have samples in my office of several hundred different kinds of foods and substances and toxins and things like that. And we used to do that by hand, and what I found is when we could do it with a computer, the library in the computer of substances goes from a few hundred to many thousand. So the ability to test for lots of things becomes greater, and then you can treat for them, and the treatment is pretty much instantly, painless, and it's usually a one-time thing. So we're going to do a little demo here of a simple test and a treatment. We start with this biofeedback cuff, and the cuff will send signals into the patient and then read them back. And I'm going to take a little bit of water, and we're going to squirt it on our patient's arm. And you got a little arm, so
Yeah.
I think we had a Jolly Green Giant in here last. So just put that on you. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, just let your arm relax. And then we're going to test to see if we're going to do our program A. And there's a list of things that we're going to test for, and I'm going to first make sure that the machine is connected to her skin properly. And everything's good, so we're going to run the test. And you're going to see there's a little dotted line right here, and as the computer is checking her skin resistance for these different substances, you can see this is way off this 50-yard line, you might say, so that would be an off reading. And you'll see some will be high, some will be low, but the closer it is to the center, the more balanced she is. There's another big spike. And it rates each one of these tests from 0 to 1,000. 0 means there was no negative response, and 1,000 means that's the worst one possible. So we're going to take, when we get through the whole test, we're going to take the top 10% and we're going to use that as a treatment. And we're going to be using some meridian points that are actually in the ear. So a lot of the treatment is done over the ear, and we're going to be scanning a laser over these points in just a minute with the treatment frequencies. So right here we have our list of substances that were tested, and the highest one is 997, and we got a bunch here that are some zeros. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the ones that are 900 and above, and those are the ones that we're actually going to treat. Here's the food list, and sugar was the highest one, nut was number 2, vegetable fat was number 3, There's a spice mix that's in here, and then it goes down in descending order. So the computer is going to calculate the intensity of the treatment for each one of the substances, and that's what it's doing right now. And so if you're familiar with homeopathy, these are dilutions. The more dilute a substance is, the deeper it is in your system and your history. So something is 1x, it's more recent. If it's millions, in the millions, it probably came through from your ancestors. This laser that we use to deliver the frequencies actually has 3 beams. There's 3 different colored lasers in here. There's a red laser, a violet laser, and a green laser, and they're angled so that they're all going to come together to one point. And the frequencies are run through the laser into the acupuncture. Most of them are going to be on the ear. And I'll just give you a little quick visual here of the laser. You can see the 3 beams. We're going to bring them down to one point like that on the patient. And so we're going to start on the ear, and we're just going to cover each ear. Cross your right foot over your left. And then we'll get the other ear. And then cross your feet the other way. Okay, good. And then the last part of the treatment is the gate points. These were the points that were discovered by Dr. Nabutrapad. And they kind of make a circle around the body. And your wrist. And inside your knee. So once the treatment's complete, desensitization occurs pretty much instantly. Now, if you're sensitive to things to such a degree that you would be carrying around an EpiPen, or you have severe sensitivities, let's say to peanuts or something like that, you don't want to run out and just eat peanuts. In fact, I'd still tell any patient to avoid those things. But what we find is that the symptoms decrease. The more of the substances that you find as you go through the series, the better the symptom picture becomes. In the very beginning, this is the first session, we find that the most common things that you might run into, like dairy and wheat and nuts and things like that, and then as you go through the series to the 12th packet, you'll find things like hydrocarbons and jet fuel and odd ingredients and things like Windex and things that you may have less contact with. As you go through the 12 packets, by the time you get to the end, usually symptoms are abated. I would say at least 80% of the time, and occasionally we have to repeat some of the sessions. And but again, it doesn't take years and years to do this, and there's no discomfort. There's no downside to doing this whatsoever.